Before you close your eyes tonight, there is something you must do. Not tomorrow, not when things settle down. Tonight. Because what you're about to learn is not simply a technique for improvement or a method for attracting better circumstances. It is a complete reset of the very fabric of your world. You see, every single day you live, you are writing a script. Every conversation, every reaction, every moment where you felt less than you truly are, every instance where the world seemed to push against you rather than open for you, all of it has been recorded, not on paper, not in some cosmic ledger, but in your own consciousness. And consciousness, as Neville tells us again and again, is the only reality. So tonight, before you drift into sleep, you have the power to rewrite that script entirely, to take the day that was, with all its disappointments and frustrations and moments where you accepted less than your ideal, and to reshape it in imagination until it conforms to what should have been. This is not fantasy. This is not positive thinking. This is revision, and it is one of the most potent practices Neville Goddard ever gave to the world. Do this before you sleep tonight, and you will wake in a new world. I tell you, the technique I am about to share with you is so simple that you may be tempted to dismiss it. Do not make that mistake, for in its simplicity lies its power, and in its consistent application lies your freedom. Welcome. If you are new here, this channel is dedicated entirely to the teachings of Neville Goddard, the mystic who understood that imagination is God, that consciousness is the only reality, and that you are not a powerless creature in a vast and indifferent universe, but rather the very operant power itself. In this episode, we are going to explore one of Neville's most practical and transformative daily practices, the nightly revision of your day. I am going to walk you through exactly what to revise, how to revise it, how long this practice should take, and why it works at the deepest level of causation. By the end of this episode, you will have everything you need to completely rewrite your past, and in doing so, to reshape your future. Not someday. Starting tonight, let us begin with the most important question. Why revise? Why not simply let the day be what it was, learn from it, and move on? The answer lies in understanding what Neville means when he says that the world is yourself pushed out. Every single thing that happened to you today, every word spoken to you, every circumstance that unfolded, every frustration you encountered, it all came from you, not from some external force acting upon you, not from some external force acting upon you, not from bad luck or karma or the will of others. It came from the state of consciousness you were occupying. And if you leave that state unchallenged, if you allow the day to harden in your memory exactly as it appeared to your senses, then you are crystallizing that state. You are saying yes to it. You are giving it permission to continue. And it will. Tomorrow will be a continuation of today. Next week will echo this week. And next year will be a repetition of this year. All because you did not intervene. But here is the glorious truth. You can intervene. But here is the glorious truth. You can intermediate. You can go back into the day, not physically, but in the only place that truly matters, in imagination. And you can change it. You can take the moment where you were ignored and imagine yourself being acknowledged. You can take the argument that left you feeling small and reimagine it as a conversation filled with respect and love. You can take the rejection and revise it into acceptance. And when you do this, when you revise the day in imagination and feel the reality of that revision, you are not engaging in wishful thinking. You are literally altering the past, not the dead past of recorded history, but the living past, the psychological past that is still active within you, still generating your tomorrows. Neville spoke often of revision, and one of the most powerful examples he gave was of a woman who had a terrible relationship with her daughter. Every interaction was filled with tension, criticism, coldness. The woman came to Neville in distress, asking what she could do, and Neville told her to do nothing outwardly. He told her to revise. Every single night before she fell asleep, she was to go back over her day and reimagine every conversation with her daughter. If there had been harshness, she was to hear kindness. If there had been distance, she was to feel warmth and closeness. If her daughter had been critical, she was to imagine her daughter being loving and appreciative. Night after night, she did this. She did not call her daughter. She did not try to force a reconciliation. She simply revised, in imagination, the relationship as it should be, and within weeks the daughter began to change, not because the mother had manipulated her, but because the mother had changed the consciousness from which the relationship was being generated. The daughter, being part of the world that is yourself pushed out, had no choice but to reflect the new state. The relationship healed entirely. The mother had not changed the daughter. She had changed herself. And in changing herself, the entire world rearranged itself to match. This is the power of revision. It is not about denying what happened. It is not about pretending or lying to yourself. It is about understanding that what happened in the outer world is not the cause of your experience. It is the effect. The cause is always consciousness. And by revising the effect in imagination, you are going back to the cause and altering it at the root. Let me say this again because it is essential. When you revise your day, you are not changing the past as an external event. You are changing the psychological record of that event within you. And since your consciousness is the only reality, that change is absolute. It rewrites the script. It shifts the state. And from that new state, a new future must unfold. Now let us go deeper into the mechanics of revision, because understanding why it works is just as important as knowing how to do it. Neville taught that time, as we experience it, is nothing but a succession of mental states. Past, present, and future are not separate realities. They are simply different focuses of attention within the eternal now of consciousness. When you remember something from this morning, you are not accessing some distant event that is locked away in history. You are entering a state of consciousness that corresponds to that memory. And because you are consciousness itself, you have the power to enter any state at any time. You are not bound by time. You are not a prisoner of what has already occurred. You are the author, the operant power, the one who decides what has meaning and what does not. And so when you revise, you are exercising your true nature as creator. You are saying, no, that is not the world I accept. That is not the past I will carry forward. I am going to imagine it differently. And what I imagine it, see, and if I feel it to be real, becomes real. This is where so many people stumble. They hear about revision and they think it sounds magical or far-fetched. They think, how can I change what already happened? But that question comes from the assumption that what happened is solid, fixed, external, and final. It is none of those things. What happened is a mental event. It exists only as a state of consciousness within you, and states can be changed. Neville said it clearly in his lectures. If you do not like what you have experienced, you do not have to carry it forward. You can go back in imagination, reconstruct the scene as it should have been, and live in that revision until it feels more real than the original. And when it does, when the revised scene carries emotional weight and sensory vividness, then that is the version that will outpicture in your future. The world has no choice but to conform, because the world is yourself pushed out. Let me give you another example, one that Neville himself often referenced. A man once came to him in deep distress. He had been involved in a terrible accident, and though he had survived, he was tormented by the memory of it. He replayed it in his mind constantly. He felt the fear, the shock, the helplessness, over and over again. Neville told him to stop feeding that memory. He instructed the man to revise the accident in imagination, to go back to the moment just before it occurred, and to imagine himself driving safely, arriving at his destination, to go back to the moment just before it occurred, and to imagine himself driving safely, arriving at his destination peacefully. The man resisted at first. He said, "But it did happen. How can I pretend it did not?" And Neville replied, "You are not pretending. You are choosing which version of the event you will give life to. The accident exists in your memory only because you keep returning to it in imagination. If you return instead to the revised version, if you make that your habitual mental state, then the accident will lose its power over you. It will fade, and the state of safety and peace will become your reality." The man followed the instruction. Every night he revised the accident into a safe journey, and within a short time the trauma lifted. He stopped having nightmares. He stopped feeling fear. The memory no longer haunted him. He had rewritten his past, and in doing so, he had freed his future. This is what revision does. It does not erase facts. It erases the emotional and psychological charge of those facts. It removes the power they have over you. And because your future is always generated from your present state of consciousness, when you change the charge of the past, you change the trajectory of your life. Now, you might be wondering, does this mean I should revise everything, every little inconvenience, every minor annoyance? And the answer is, not necessarily. Neville advises us to focus on the events that carry emotional weight, the moments where you felt diminished, rejected, disrespected, afraid, or powerless. Those are the moments that create and reinforce undesirable states. Those are the scenes that, if left unrevised, will continue to generate similar experiences in your future. A traffic jam that made you 5 minutes late is probably not worth revising. But a conversation where you felt humiliated, or an opportunity that you missed and that left you feeling like a failure, those are the moments to go back and rewrite. Because those moments are not neutral. They are charged, and that charge is creating your tomorrow. Now let us move into the practical application. How exactly do you revise your day? Neville gave very clear instructions on this, and I am going to walk you through them step by step so that tonight you know exactly what to do. First, you wait until you are in bed, ready to sleep. This is important. You do not do this in the middle of the day while you are still engaged with the world. You do this at night in the drowsy state just before sleep, because that state, that borderland between waking and sleeping, is the most receptive state of consciousness. It is the state in which the subconscious is open and impressionable. Neville called it the state akin to sleep, and it is in this state that imagination has the most power. So you lie down, you close your eyes, and you allow yourself to relax. You do not need to be in a deep trance. You simply need to be still, comfortable, and inwardly focused. Once you are in that state, you begin to review your day. Not analytically, not with judgment. You simply go back over the events of the day in reverse order, starting from the present moment and moving backward toward the morning. Why reverse order? Because it keeps your attention sharp. If you review the day chronologically, your mind tends to wander or fall asleep. But by going backward, you engage your focus. You see the evening, then the afternoon, then the morning hour, then the morning. And as you review, you are watching for the moments that did not conform to your ideal. The moments where you reacted instead of responded. The moments where you felt less than you are. The moments where you felt less than you are. The moments where the world seemed to say no to you when you wanted it to say yes. Those are the moments you are going to revise. When you come upon such a moment, you stop. You do not dwell on what actually happened. Instead, you begin to imagine it differently. You reconstruct the scene in imagination, not as it was, but as it should have been. If someone spoke to you harshly, you imagine them speaking to you with kindness and respect. If you failed at something, you imagine yourself succeeding effortlessly. If you felt anxious or afraid, you imagine yourself calm, confident, and secure. You do not merely think about this revision. You enter into it. You see it from your own eyes. You hear the words as they would have been spoken. You feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled. This is not observation. This is participation. You are living the revised scene in imagination as though it is happening now. And you continue in that scene until it is happening now. And you continue in that scene until it feels real, until it produces in you the emotional satisfaction of the thing accomplished. How long should you spend on each revision? As long as it takes to feel the reality of it. This might be 30 seconds. It might be 2 minutes. There is no set rule. The measure is not time. The measure is feeling. When the revised scene feels natural, when it carries the weight of reality, when you can almost forget that it is a revision and accept it as what truly occurred, then you are done. You move on to the next moment that needs revision. Or if there are no more, you allow yourself to drift into sleep. The entire process might take 5 minutes. It might take 15. It does not matter. It might take 15. It does not matter. What matters is that you do it, and that you do it with feeling. A revision without feeling is like a seed without water. It will not take root. Now, what if the day was relatively good? What if there were no major negative events? Then you can use the time before sleep to simply replay the positive moments, amplifying the feeling of them, giving thanks for them in imagination. Or you can use the time to imagine tomorrow as you wish it to be. But if there were moments of discord, moments where you accepted less than your ideal, those must be revised. Do not carry them forward. Do not let them harden. Rewrite them tonight. Let me give you a very concrete example so you can see how this works in practice. Let us say you had an argument with a coworker today. The coworker was dismissive, condescending, and made you feel small in front of others. You left the interaction feeling angry and hurt. Tonight, as you lie in bed, you go back to that moment in imagination. But this time, you do not replay the argument. Instead, you imagine the coworker approaching you with a smile. You imagine them acknowledging your contribution, speaking to you with respect, perhaps even complimenting your work in front of others. You hear their tone of voice. You see the expression on their face. You feel the warmth of being valued and appreciated. You let that feeling fill you. You do not think, well, this did not really happen. You think this is how it should have been, and in imagination this is how it is. You dwell in that revised scene until the original argument loses its sting, until the revised version feels more true than the actual one, and then you let it go. You drift into sleep, and tomorrow you will find that something has shifted. Maybe the coworker will behave differently. Maybe you will feel differently, and that change in you will alter the entire dynamic. Maybe a new opportunity will arise that removes you from that environment entirely. You do not dictate the form of the change. You simply revise, and the world rearranges itself accordingly. Another example. Let us say you made a mistake today that embarrassed you, stumbled over your words in a meeting, or you forgot something important, or you were late for an appointment. The memory of it gnaws at you. You keep replaying it, feeling the embarrassment over and over. Stop. Tonight, revise it. Imagine the meeting going smoothly. Imagine yourself speaking clearly, confidently, and being met with approval and respect. Imagine arriving on time, everything flowing perfectly. Do not justify the mistake. Do not analyze why it happened. Simply replace it in imagination with the ideal. And as you do, you will feel the weight of the mistake lift. The embarrassment will fade, and you will wake tomorrow no longer carrying that state of failure. Instead, you will carry the state of competence and ease, and that is the state from which your future will unfold. You see, every moment of your day is either reinforcing a desirable state or an undesirable one. Most people go through their day unconsciously absorbing every slight, every frustration, every disappointment. And then they carry all of that into sleep, every frustration, every disappointment, and then they carry all of that into sleep. And sleep, as Neville tells us, is the time when the subconscious mind is most active, when impressions are being sealed into consciousness. So if you fall asleep replaying the hurts and failures of the day, you are impressing those states deeply into your subconscious, and they will generate more of the same tomorrow. But if you revise before you sleep, if you consciously choose which impressions you will carry into the subconscious, then you are taking control of the creative process. You are becoming the author of your experience rather than the victim of it. Neville often said that the only thing you need to do is assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Revision is one of the most direct ways to do that, because it allows you to take the very moments where you did not feel fulfilled and to transform them in imagination until you do. And here is the miraculous part. When you do this consistently, night after night, you will begin to notice that the kinds of events that used to require revision start happening less and less. The arguments, the rejections, the disappointments, they begin to fade from your experience. Why? Because you are no longer in the state that generates them. You have revised yourself out of that state. You have rewritten the script at the level of consciousness. And the outer world, being nothing but a reflection of consciousness, has no choice but to follow. Now let us address a question that often arises. What if the event involved another person? What if someone hurt me, or betrayed me, or lied to me? Can I revise that? And the answer is yes, absolutely. In fact, those are precisely the kinds of events that most need revision, because when you hold on to resentment, anger, or hurt toward another person, you are binding yourself to them in a negative state. You are keeping that state alive in your consciousness. And as long as it is alive in you, it will continue to manifest in some form in your world. But when you revise the event, when you imagine the person behaving lovingly, honorably, kindly toward you, you are not doing this for them, you are doing it for you. You are not doing this for them. You are doing it for you. You are freeing yourself from the state of being wrong. You are releasing the grip that the event has on your consciousness. And when you do that, one of two things will happen. Either the person will change in your experience, reflecting your new state, or they will simply fade from your life. no longer relevant to the story you are now telling. Either way, you are free. Neville tells us that forgiveness is not a moral obligation. It is a psychological necessity. You cannot carry resentment and expect to live in a state of love. You cannot hold on to grievances and expect to experience freedom. And revision is the most effective form of forgiveness, because it does not require you to condone what happened or to pretend it did not hurt. It simply requires you to change the record in consciousness, to replace the scene of harm with a scene of harmony. And when you do that, the hurt dissolves, not because you forced yourself to forgive, but because the thing you are holding on to no longer exists in you. You have revised it out of existence. Let me share one more example that Neville recounted in his lectures. A woman wrote to him and told him that her son had been injured in the war. He had returned home, but he was bitter, angry, and distant. He refused to speak to her. She was heartbroken. Neville told her to revise every interaction with her son. Every time she remembered his coldness, she was to imagine warmth. Every time she remembered his silence, she was to hear him speaking to her with love and openness. Every time she felt the pain of his rejection, she was to imagine him embracing her, telling her he loved her, being the son she knew he truly was. She did this faithfully, every single night, and within a month, the son began to soften. He started speaking to her again. He began to smile. Eventually he told her that he did not know what had changed, but he felt different, lighter, more like himself. The relationship was restored. The woman had not preached to him, had not begged him, had not tried to fix him. She had simply revised the relationship in her own consciousness, and the outer world conformed. This is the law. This is how it works. You are not changing other people. You are changing the state of consciousness from which you perceive them. And because they exist in your world, because the world is yourself pushed out, they must reflect that change. They have no choice. They are not independent agents acting upon you. They are part of the tapestry of your consciousness, and when you change the pattern within, the outer tapestry must change as well. Now, I want to speak to those of you who might be thinking, this sounds like a lot of work. I am tired at the end of the day. I just want to sleep. And I understand. But consider this. You are already spending time at the end of the day thinking about what happened. You are already replaying conversations, worrying about tomorrow, rehearsing your grievances. All revision asks is that you direct that mental activity consciously rather than letting it run wild. It is not additional effort. It is redirected effort, and the return on that small investment is immeasurable. 10 minutes of conscious revision before sleep can change the entire course of your life. It can free you from patterns that have held you captive for years. It can heal relationships, dissolve fears, and open doors that seem permanently closed. Is that not worth 10 minutes? Neville also taught that revision is cumulative. Every night that you revise, you are building a new structure in consciousness. You are dismantling the old framework of lack, limitation, and victimhood, and you are constructing a new framework of fulfillment, freedom, and power. And just as a building is constructed brick by brick, so too is your consciousness reshaped moment by moment, revision by revision. You do not need to see the full picture tonight. You simply need to lay one brick, revise one scene, and then another tomorrow night, and another the night after that, and before long you will look back and realize that your entire inner world has transformed to match. There is also a deeper dimension to revision that Neville spoke of, and it is this. Revision is not only a tool for improving your personal circumstances. It is a tool for spiritual awakening. Because every time you revise, you are exercising your power as God. You are demonstrating to yourself that you are not bound by the past, not limited by what has already occurred, not subject to the will of others or the tyranny of facts. You are the operant power. You are the one who decides what is real. And the more you practice revision, the more you come to know yourself as imagination, as the Creator, as God Himself in human form. This is not blasphemy. This is the very core of Neville's teaching. You are not a man seeking God. You are God seeking expression. And revision is one of the ways you remember that truth. So tonight, before you sleep, I want you to do this. I want you to lie down, close your eyes, and begin to review your day in reverse. Start from this moment and move backward through the evening, the afternoon, the morning. As you do, watch for the moments that did not conform to your ideal, And when you find one, stop. Reconstruct it in imagination. See it as it should have been. Hear the words as they should have been spoken. Feel the words as they should have been spoken. Feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Do this for every moment that needs revision. And when you are done, let yourself drift into sleep, carrying with you only the revised version of your day. Do not worry about whether it will work. Do not question it. Simply do it. Try it, and watch what happens tomorrow. Neville used to say, "The world is a dream, and you are the dreamer." But most people are dreaming unconsciously, replaying the same nightmare over and over. Revision is the act of becoming a lucid dreamer, of taking control of the dream while you are still in it. And when you do that, when you consciously shape the dream according to your ideal, the dream becomes a vehicle for your awakening. You begin to see that there is no outer world that is doing anything to you. There is only consciousness, and consciousness is you. And you are free to imagine whatever you choose. You are free to imagine whatever you choose. You are free to revise your past, to reshape your present, and to create your future, not by manipulating external circumstances, but by altering the state of consciousness from which all circumstances flow. Now I want to zoom out for a moment and speak to the larger significance of what we are discussing, because revision is not merely a technique. It is a doorway into the understanding that you are not in the world. The world is in you. Everything you have ever experienced, everyone you have ever known, every place you have ever been, exists within your consciousness. And because it exists within you, you have authority over it. You are not at the mercy of history. You are not bound by the past. You are not a leaf blown by the wind of circumstance. You are the wind. You are the creator. And revision is how you begin to live from that truth. Neville often spoke of the promise, the mystical awakening to your true identity as God. And he said that the techniques, including revision, are not the end. They are the means by which you prove to yourself that consciousness is the only reality. Every time you revise and see the outer world conform, you are gathering evidence of your own divinity. You are moving closer to the realization that you and the Father are one. And when that realization comes, when you awaken to who you truly are, the techniques fall away because you no longer need them. You simply create from the state of knowing. But until that day, use the tools. Use revision. Let it be your daily practice, your nightly prayer, your constant reminder that you are not a victim of the past, but the author of it. There is a passage in Scripture that Neville loved to quote, and it is this: "Behold, I make all things new." Not some things, all things. And that is what you are doing when you revise. You are making all things new. You are taking the old and transforming it into the new by the power of imagination. And imagination, Neville tells us, is God. So when you imagine, you are not engaging in fantasy. You are engaging in creation. You are doing what God does. And because you are God, you cannot fail. You can only forget. But every time you revise, you remember. You remember who you are. You remember your power. And you reclaim your throne. So let tonight be the night you begin. Do not wait for the perfect time. Do not wait until you understand it fully. Do not wait until you understand it fully. Do not wait until you believe it completely. Lie down tonight, close your eyes, and revise your day. Change the scenes that did not serve you. Replace them with scenes that do. Feel the reality of those revised scenes, and then let yourself fall asleep in that feeling. And tomorrow, pay attention. Notice what shifts. Notice what changes. Notice how the world begins to respond differently to you. Not because the world changed, but because you did. And the world is yourself pushed out. I want to leave you with one final thought. Neville once said that the greatest gift you can give yourself is the gift of a redeemed past. Most people drag their past behind them like a chain, heavy with regret, resentment, and failure. But you do not have to do that. You can revise the past until it becomes a source of strength rather than a burden. You can rewrite every failure into a success, every rejection into acceptance, every moment of fear into a moment of courage. And when you do that, you are not living in denial. You are living in truth, because the only reality is consciousness. And in consciousness, the past is not fixed. It is fluid. It is alive. And it can be changed. So do this before you sleep tonight. Revise your day, make all things new, and wake tomorrow in a world that reflects the change you made within. This is not magic. This is law. And you are the operant power. You are God in action. And what you imagine, if you persist in it, must become your reality. I tell you, try it. Try it tonight, and you will prove to yourself that the world is not something that happens to you. It is something that happens from you. And when you know that, you are free. Go now and revise. Rewrite your day. Rewrite your past. And in doing so, write yourself a new future. The pen is in your hand. The power is within you. And the time is now.